Hi. Oh. Oh, sorry. This is a place for people who have their shit together. I'll just... Hi guys, it's Leanne. Just, in case you had forgotten after my whopping 3 videos last month. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I am living right now in Struggle Forest. I feel like I'm clawing my way back to myself very slowly, like hand by creeping hand, but in order to do that, I kind of had to hit rock bottom last month. It was not a comfortable place. I do not recommend it. 0 stars on TripAdvisor. I had to hit rock bottom in order to admit to myself that I was trying to do too much. I had too much on my plate, which is really unfortunate because half of my brain just goes, well, now you're a big fat failure. And the other half of my brain realizes that in saying that, I am very wrong and I don't like being wrong. Being wrong is literally the worst feeling. So long story short, I have closed my shop for 6 weeks so that I can, make consistent videos and draw at the same time and somehow feed my soul. I want my brain to just do brain things. Normal, even, calm brain things. It's not so much to ask, is it? Really? This has been Breakdown 3 in the year of our potato 2021. Announcements out of the way, back to regularly scheduled TBR programming. Before we get into my normal TBR for this month, I just want to borrow your peepers just for a second. I want to draw your attention to a very fun project that is kicking off this month. July is the first month of #GRACELINGALONG. I feel like that's a musical number that needs like jazz hands. GRACELINGALONG is a project hosted by myself, the wonderful Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, the lovely Jean from Bookish Thoughts, and the scintillating Amy from Amy Talks Books over on Instagram. Don't worry, peer pressure is in full force and we are gonna make Amy have a booktube channel because y'all need to see more of her face. She's fabulous. All of the lovely ladies that I have mentioned are all linked down below, along with the Twitter page for our wonderful, wonderful read-along. I love the Graceling books by Kristin Cashore. I have loved them for a very, very long time, but I have never actually read the 4th book in the series. So this is going to be a fun project for me, filled with nostalgia and then surprise. And also, stress, because what if I don't like the last one? What are you doing, Scotland? Reset the natural light-white balance to wherever it usually is. Natural lighting. How rude. Also probably traffic noise and birdies and things because it's really warm here today and I'm not closing the window, not even for you. So if you want to join in with us, we start reading along this month and we will have a live show at the end of the month. All of the dates will be announced on Bookstagram, on Amy's account, and also on our Twitter down below. Very bad with the bird app, but I will be hanging around to like and retweet things. Also, you might have noticed that the handle for our Twitter account is actually just Let's Read Fantasy, and after GRACELINGALONG has finished, we will be reading more fantasy series written by women. So if you have any suggestions that you'd like to pitch for us, you can go there and do that too. Alright, on to the books that are legitimately gonna torture me this month. I can't believe that we're actually in month 7 for my #year of readathons. That may be the most consistent I've ever been with a project in my entire life. But this month, instead of you guys trolling me, I have trolled myself. The entire idea of Year of Readathons is that I play Stack It. I make a stack of 5 physical books from my shelf and I have to read all the way through them in order or unhaul them. And the reason that I do 5 Stack It books every month is so that I don't just mood read. Because if I mood read, I inevitably read newer books in my collection, not older books like always. And sometimes I get stuck in a rut. Because sometimes I'm in the mood for a very, very specific thing, but there are only a few of those very, very specific things in existence. And so I run out and just then don't read anything at all. Ever. But I was starting to miss mood reading, and so instead of mood reading for myself, I have asked to borrow you guys' moods, your moods, how you're feeling, what you're mood reading, what you would like to mood read. And so here we are with 5 moods that are not mine, but are in fact yours, and which I am going to pick books for, and then force myself to read them, even if that mood is not my own. Because that's apparently how we roll here. So first up, the mood that we are going for is cozy. A bunch of you wanted this mood, like a whole bunch of you. Of course, when you read cozy and you're in my library, it's really easy to go straight to cozy mystery, but I don't think I'm going to go for the most obvious route this time. I think instead I am going to interpret what cozy means to me. And for me, if it's not a cozy mystery, cozy means a sequel. A world that I already know really, really well, where I'm already really invested in the characters and I desperately want to carry on with it. We're going this month for books that I know that my brain is going to really, really enjoy, or for books that are going to like make me really quickly turn the pages. Which is also coincidentally the thing that I recommend that you do if you're in a reading slump. More on that in a future video. So the sequel that I have decided to pick is European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman? Maybe. I will be so impressed with myself if I have got that right. This is of course the sequel to The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, which is of course one of my favourite books of all time. In The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, we follow Mary Jekyll, who is of course the daughter of the famous Dr. Jekyll. Mary's mother has just died and left her absolutely destitute, and she is trying to find a way to keep her very rambling Victorian home in the family and to, you know, stop her from having to go into like a poor shelter. And she decides that she's going to do this by collecting the bounty on the head of Mr. Hyde, her father, Dr. Jekyll's dodgy associate who has been accused of murdering someone. But instead of finding Mr. Hyde, what Mary finds is Diana, Mr. Hyde's daughter. And from there we go on an absolutely breakneck series of adventures through Victorian London, meeting lots of different classic horror characters as Mary finds out that there are quite a lot of abandoned daughters of scientific men. Men who have created their daughters and then have just left them with the consequences. It's great, you should read it. Also, if you like Sherlock Holmes, you should really, really read it, because Holmes and Watson appear in their original states in this novel, and Baker Street finding, you know, murderers and doing things for Scotland Yard. And it's the most convincing portrayal of Sherlock that I've ever seen outside of the original novels. So, you know, there's that. Next up, several of you liked the idea of both atmospheric and gothic. This one was an immediate, really easy choice for me, and it is a book that I haven't even showed you guys in a haul yet. It's that new, but I am so desperate to read it, and it is Madam by Phoebe Wynne. The tagline for this one says, "A darkly feminist modern gothic tale pitched against a haunting backdrop and populated by an electrifying cast of heroines." If that doesn't do atmospheric and gothic, then I don't know what does. This one is about Rose Christie. She is a very young classics professor, and she has recently got a job in the prestigious, like, highly held school of Caldon Bray, which is away in the Scottish Highlands. I went very Scottish there when I said that. It's away up there, away up the tap. Caldon Bray very rarely takes in new teachers, and certainly not teachers as young as Rose, so it is exceptional that she has been admitted there. So when Rose gets there, she's obviously quite daunted, and it takes her a little while to get her bearings. But slowly she starts to realise that Caldon Bray is not all what it seems. There is a culture behind Caldon Bray that absolutely refuses any kind of modernism. Rose realises that new ideas are not just frowned upon, but absolutely forbidden. And she also realises that that's the reason that her predecessor is no longer there. And as she starts to search for the ghost of the woman who came before her, she makes some truly horrifying realizations. Sounds like everything that I need right now. As in, like, I kind of want to stop filming this video and just go start reading it. But I think you guys would frown at me if I did that. So there we go. That is atmospheric and gothic in a nutshell. For book number 3, we have a really interesting one that totally grabbed my attention when I saw it. This mood is Lost Track of Time, a very popular bookish mood. The kind where you pick up a book and then you sit up 3 hours later and you're like, How did that happen? You could even miss meals doing that, guys. That would be horrible. Get yourself a lovely wife, Helen, who will bring you food and hydration while you are lost in a book. For this one, Lost Track of Time really specifically made me think about a book that I read last month. And the clue is that the book that I have picked for this is by the same author. I'm not going to tell you the title of the one that I read, although you'll be able to, you know, divine it very easily if you think about it for a minute. I'm going to save talking about that for my wrap up. But for that book, I literally forgot where I was. I read it so stinking quickly that I immediately went and bought 2 of Rosamund Lupton's other books. Book buying ban be damned, I was having them in my life. And I have picked one of them for this prompt. Rosamund Lupton only has a backlist of about 5 books, which I really love because it's a new author, but I don't also have to read 42 things. I can be an authority in as much as 4 more books. For this one, I have picked Afterwards, and I've specifically chosen this cover to show you and not the UK cover, which looks like this. Seriously, Rosamund Lupton's publishers have done her dirty with the covers of her books because none of them are reflective of the actual contents, and all of them are these like horrible generic thriller covers which are like white and red and grey and just why? I don't understand. This one is better. Let's go with this. And for this one, I have got the tiniest synopsis. I'm just going to read it to you because I don't want to spoil myself anymore by trying to find out more about it. That was actually what I loved about the book that I read last month. I knew so very little, and when I went into it, there was so much there. This one says, there is a fire and they are in there. They are in there. Black smoke stains a summer blue sky. A school is on fire, and one mother, Grace, sees the smoke. She knows her teenage daughter Jenny is inside. She runs into the building to rescue her. Afterwards, Grace must find the identity of the arsonist and protect her children from the person who's intent on destroying them. Afterwards, she must fight the limits of her physical strength and discover the limitlessness of love. Limitlessness. The limitlessness of love. Couldn't we have just gone with like boundlessness? Some other syllable? Anyway, I'm reading this one and I'm very excited about it. Next up, there was another bunch of you that went with mysterious. I could have lumped this in with atmospheric and gothic, but I decided to give it its own category and to interpret it a little differently. Rather than going for a book that is mysterious, I am going to go for some very mysterious hype. The book that I've chosen for this one is The Last House on Needless Street, and the reason that it's so mysterious is that you can almost not find a single person who will give you the same synopsis for this book, but every single person who has read it has said to me, I can't explain it, you're just gonna have to read it for yourself. Which to Leanne's mind was just a red rag to a bull that said, we need to read this now. Nobody will tell me what it's actually about, but everybody says it's my thing. What does that mean? And I'm gonna be perfectly honest, from the synopsis, I still don't know what that means. Like, I'm gonna read it to you, but I still don't know what the book is about. So, here it is. This is the story of a serial killer, a stolen child, revenge, death, and an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. All these things are true, and yet they are all lies. Definitely mysterious. You think you know what's inside the last house on Needless Street. You think you've read this story before. That's where you're wrong. In the dark forest at the end of Needless Street lies something buried. But it's not what you think. Obviously, I should have read that the minute that it came through my door. Amusingly though, I've also seen some really polar opinions about this one. Everybody who has read it has told me to read it, but they don't all think the same thing about it. More than just your average book, there just seems to be a, it was amazing and I loved it and oh my god it was mind-blowing and I saw what it was trying to do but it wasn't for me. Why didn't I make this the first one? This could have been mood number 1. I make the stack it stack. Why did I not weight this in my favour? Curses, you fool! Oh well, let's get on to the last one. The last mood that I got was disorientating, and that was just, oh, it played right into my hands. Because you see, I have a buddy read planned for the month of July, and this is the perfect prompt for it. And normally I would not allow myself to do that. Normally I would say, well, we have planned the buddy read, we have to go find another book. But this month I'm trying to be nice to myself. You'll notice a theme here in that I'm trying to give myself books to read which I know that I'm excited for already. I'm not giving myself anything that I think, I'm not sure, I'll put it on Stack It and we'll see. Because my brain needs some kind of excitement in front of it to keep it going right now. So the book that I have picked for disorientating is The Sanitorium. I talked about this one in last month's book haul, maybe, and I am still very excited for it. Although mildly trepidatious, I do have one little niggly worry, but let me explain. The Sanitorium is essentially about a female police inspector who has taken time off from her job. I think she may have been signed off sick, but I could be wrong. She is invited to her brother's wedding, which takes place in the middle of the Alps in the most remote location possible, and she's not keen on going anyway. She's not exactly her brother's biggest fan. But despite her gut instinct and, you know, not wanting to spend time with her family, she goes and she discovers that the hotel that they're staying at is a converted sanatorium. It was once a traditional madhouse and it has been recently all done up and refurbished. But the very first night that she is there, her husband's fiance is found dead. And with no way to get communication with the outside world and with no chance that anybody has, you know, arrived in the night and left again, she discovers that she is locked in a sanatorium with a murderer. And she's the only one with the actual, you know, skills to find out who that is. So you've probably guessed the reason that I'm a little bit like, ooh, I don't know, and that is obviously because it is about a police detective. And you guys know that for the most part I don't read traditional crime anymore. I don't read like inspectors, detective, new bobbies on the beat. I don't do that anymore. It's not fun for me. I'm over the grim and depressing, hardened, gnarled detective. And so the fact that the main character in this is a detective is a little bit like, but I do like it when people are pulled out of their natural environment. Again, that's one of the things that I really love about The Dry by Jane Harper, because Aaron Falk is in town for a funeral. He is not there to investigate the murder. He just gets it handed to him and is told, we need your help. And that is a particular trope that I enjoy in like thriller and crime fiction, so we're going to give it a go. I'm going to be buddy reading this one with my absolute loves, Victoria from What Victoria Read and Jean from Bookish Thoughts. Jean has all of her fingers in all of the many pies that I do. That was a tasty analogy. Let's move on. So there we go. Those are the 5 books that I have chosen for my Stack It for this month. I'm still quite amused with myself that I've found a way to mood read for my year of readathons, even though, you know, they're not my moods. But they're moods that I think you guys knew that I would vibe with, so you did me a solid there. But as always, I do have a bunch of other books that I want to get to this month, so let's crack on and get to those. The first one that I really want to pick up is the Mime Order. This is the second book in the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon. I read the first book 2 months ago, I think. Became absolutely obsessed. I became absolutely obsessed. This is your brain on depression. This series is about Paige Mahoney, and she is a clairvoyant in a futuristic Britain in which clairvoyancy is hunted and eradicated. A radical government has come to power in this Britain, and Paige and people like her have to stay underground. The problem for Paige is that her father is quite high up in that radical government. He works for a university that is completely controlled by them. And so while Paige tells her dad that she works in a bar in the evenings, she is actually part of an underground, a criminal underground. And in this world, there's definitely shades of Victorian London, so a lot of the slang and the feeling of being in this criminal underground very much comes from that era, and I love it. In book 1, Paige accidentally kills somebody with her powers and is essentially on the run for a whole day until somebody finds her, but not the people she was worried were going to find her. a whole other set of people who are far more dangerous and she didn't know existed. I flew through the first book in this, and to be honest, I'm particularly stunned that I didn't just abandon the rest of my TBR and then go on and pick up the Mime Order. Hey, 2 months ago me had some self-control, but the self-control has run out, so I am reading this month no matter what. Next up, if you guys have watched the video that I just posted with lovely wife Helen, wherein we answered your very, very specific book recommendation requests, you will see that in that video I basically talked myself in to a couple of rereads. Well, actually that's a lie. Lovely wife Helen talked me into a couple of rereads with their nostalgia and then their enthusiasm, and I just can't resist when they look all like happy and cheery, and it made me want to read them. And why is my wife so disgustingly adorable and also persuasive? So the 2 books that I am going to be rereading are Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Riordan. I can never ever successfully say that all the way through without a pause. Like, my brain just has an issue with Rick Riordan's name. If I end up reading this whole series through again, you're gonna have to change your name, dude. This is, of course, a classic middle grade series about a boy who discovers that he is a demigod and goes to a camp for half-bloods where he is trained to evade the monsters that want to kill him and his kind. And I'm sure that that was a completely redundant explanation because you guys all know what Percy Jackson was about, but it was very succinct, so I'm giving myself a point. Licking your finger in 2021 even when you haven't left your house for a whole day just hits different, you know. The other book is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This is a YA psychological thriller book with other elements that I can't tell you about because it would give things away. It has very Gossip Girl vibes. It's about a group of teenagers in a very elite circle who go to their family's almost private island for the summer. But nothing in this world is completely as it seems, and we very quickly discover that there is a mystery at the heart of this novel and that somebody has been lying pretty much all along. And I can't tell you anything else about it, you just have to go read it. It's incredibly short, it's a tiny, tiny little book, but it packs so much of a punch. And finally, I have a bunch of others on my maybe list, on my if my brain wants to read this right now, I'm going to pick it up immediately list. Those include Hail Mary by Andy Weir, who is obviously the author of The Martian. It is, I think, his 3rd book, wherein humanity is very much under threat. Lovely wife Helen is reading this right now and is absolutely obsessed with it. So once again, that's their fault. Thank you, wife. There is The Roommate by Rosie Dan, which I heard about thanks to Steph from Steph Loves. I need to almost exclusively take Steph's recommendations for romance books. There is, of course, Siege and Storm, which I have been meaning to pick up for like the last 3 months ever since I read Shadow and Bone and really enjoyed it. I don't want to watch the show until I've read all of the books because I don't want any spoilers because then I won't read the books. So I really need to pick this one up because I'm behind, you know, on the world at this point. And then there are a bunch of books kicking about for some various vlogs that are in the works right now that I can't tell you anything about. I think it's always quite amusing when we have Optimistic Leanne at the start of the month who has all of these plans. By the end of the month, you guys are usually like, you can do it, it's okay. And so that's it. That is everything that I plan on reading in the month of July. Don't forget about hashtag GRACELINGALONG. Come and join us. We are very, very excited. And if you would like to check out my Patreon, there will be more buddy reads coming in July. And you guys have still got a book that you can pick for me to read this month. I still don't know what it is. So if you need more TBR shenanigans after finishing this video, you can head there. I'm gonna need you all to wish me tons of luck for getting through this TBR because I just need to make my brain do the thing. Well, do all of the things, but also do the reading thing. As always, if you guys have read any of the books that I've talked about here today, please let me know about it down below. Tell me whether you enjoyed them or whether you did not. We like opinions here. If you have any books to recommend to me for any of the reading moods that I've listed, I would be very into that. You can leave all of that down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider whacking that thumbs up button because it very much helps, and I need all the help that I can get right now. And if you are enjoying my year of readathons, then consider subscribing and sticking around if you're new. I torture myself like this every month. And I will speak to you guys very soon. Bye! Okay, I love you all, so I'm gonna be honest. This is what we're working with, guys. Send help.